Black people, we've got to fight. Jean Petro, you see us. Oguo, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, Black people, we've got to fight. Zumbi, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, Black people, we've got to fight. Yes, Santewa, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, Black people, we've got to fight. Bookman, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh,
we have to have the courage to construct our own reality. And that's what Garvey was talking about. Because he said he looked around, he didn't see what he thought should be there, and so what did he do? He didn't get depressed about it. He didn't get defeated about it. He said, I'm going to build the government that we need to have. Ooh, where do you get that kind of boldness from? So we got to go all the way back to Garvey, who said he would come again. He said he would be here with us, no matter how long it took. And I'm telling you that the way he comes back is in our work. Not honoring him in words, pomp, and all of that stuff, but honoring him through doing what he did. How many of us had the courage to do that? The man took on the world for us and in our name. And then we come to Sodai. And in this presentation of the paradigm, I'm going to make this like what it is we want to reach. So Sodai is translated clear word in Dogana language. And I use it to mean that here we gain understanding. This is sight with understanding. And it is seeing beyond what just we think we see with this physical thing. It's seeing beyond that. And so we gain vision, because that's what vision is. With vision, you've got to be able to use the imagination informed by the African spirit. And Brother Amos, who I work very closely with, was a good friend of mine. He taught me, and he would talk about imagination. Image a nation. Do you see? But that's got to be part of vision. To be a visionary, you got to see beyond this box here. You got to see beyond the ma'afa. You got to see what is it that our people rightfully should have, and that's what Garvey did. Garvey had a vision.
Kushim University is brought to you by our amazing sponsor, The Black Secret. Are you ready to dive deep into Black history, economics, wealth building, and self-empowerment? The Black Secret is offering exclusive courses by none other than the Black history man himself, Robin Walker. This is the most powerful Black studies course on offer for the entire Black world. And guess what? You can get started today by simply using our special link, which you can find in the video description. Be sure to apply our coupon code Kimbunga to get another 20% off your membership. And there's more! Want to get a taste of what the Black Secret has to offer? You can also claim the book 100 Black History Facts absolutely free. Link in the description. So what are you waiting for? Expand your mind, unlock a world of knowledge, claim your free book, and let the Black Secret guide you on a journey of discovery and empowerment.
Click on the link below or subscribe to get more information. Class is in session.
And so one of the things that, we must push, all of us, is this fundamental question of the global nature of our African identities. That we stop, to see ourselves as Nigerians and Gabonese and, Ghanaians and Congolese and all these other nonsensical identities that we have. But not just that we talk about them like we're talking now, but that it's actually, embedded in our spirits, in our psyche, and in our approach to our work. Because those of you, who are on the continent know that we face, this crisis of religion, this crisis of ethnicism that is tearing us apart. And the only solution to that is going to, to start to address things and see things as a global body. And that when we speak of a Federation of African States, we're not just referring to us on the continent, but that we are coming to the table with all of our power. And our power means the millions of Africans in the diaspora. That there's that clarity of understanding. So it's not something we just talk about or we preach about, but that we actually begin to implement.
Mwali, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe, Kudzai, Mudzimu, Mokolo. We give praises unto our great ancestors, Abibi Fahodiye, African power and African liberation for all African people. Greetings and welcome, brothers and sisters. We are live on Kimbunga Media with our weekly live show, Zivanai, which simply means let us get to know each other. Make we talk. Hashtag make we talk. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters. It's good to be with you here on this day, the 25th of the month, called September. And we're going to get into some, issues today, brothers and sisters. We're going to share the link shortly because I'm going to go through a few different, subject matters, some current events and some current issues. And then we're going to delve into some historical analysis. As you can see, the show is entitled Africa Must Unite, Practical versus Utopian. And I really want to give some, context to this idea of African unity and the concept that has variously been referred to as the African Union of States or the United States of Africa, delving into the legacy of the Osagyefo, Kwame Nkrumah, particularly because it was the anniversary of his birth on Medai Saturday gone. For those who are not aware, the birthday, which is the official, I should say, birthday. If you've read the autobiography of Kwame Nkrumah, you will know that there is, at least some conflict as to exactly which day he was born. But his birthday is officially recognized on the 21st of September. And so we're going to delve into some of his legacy in terms of his written work in this show, particularly relating to the idea of African unity, particularly African political union, an African Union of States, or a United States of Africa, and what that really meant. Because I think that sometimes this subject is important because there are many people who have a lot of misconceptions around this idea and this ideal, and tend to dismiss it as impossible, as a fantasy, as a utopian dream, without ever investigating the context that brought the idea and the pursuit of the idea into being, and also without ever having any knowledge or investigation of the actual attempts to manifest, that idea, brothers and sisters. All right, so we have to do our ancestors, especially our revolutionary ancestors, justice. And the idea did not originate with Osachefo Kwame Nkrumah, but it would be true to say that in his time, he was one of, if not the most prolific articulator of the idea. And one who pursued the idea, quite significantly, brothers and sisters. And so we're going to, just touch on some aspects of his work in that regard and see what we can glean from it. All right. So as we get into the show, let me do the housekeeping, brothers and sisters. I first need to make you aware of the fact that the link in the description for this show also features the Afrika report, the African World Special Edition, which is the War Report, brothers and sisters, packed full of vital reporting and analysis from the front lines of African rebellion, Kenya to Haiti and beyond, brothers and sisters. Yes, indeed, with contributions from Mama Marimba, Sheon Kuti, Ngugi Wationgo, Jafrik Haiti, and also myself, Shakara Bandaka. Yes, brothers and sisters, you can get the War Report absolutely free by clicking the link in the description to this video. And I am pleased by the feedback that we have gotten from this particular report and our attempt to inform the African world and provide proper analysis about what is going on, brothers and sisters. And so do check out the War Report absolutely free via the link in the description to the video. It is also for me to inform you of the fact that our flagship show, Kushim University, will certainly be returning, brothers and sisters. Yes, indeed, will certainly be returning this coming Kulichagulia Day, Monday, the 30th of September, from the hour of 7 p.m. BST, which corresponds to the hour of 2 p.m.s, not 3 p.m.s. Excuse the typo, brothers and sisters. EST if you're across the waters. And for those who are not aware, the Kushim University is our platform for scholar, activist, warrior scholars in all areas of people activity to wax lyrical on their area of study, investigation, and expertise. And so we're going to be relaunching this show. We're going to get one episode of Kushim University a month, and we're going to be relaunching this show with the one and only Robin Walker. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters, you don't want to miss this particular show. And as you heard already, if you were with us right at the beginning of the show, Kushim University is in fact sponsored by the Black Secret, which is an institution which Robin Walker is at the helm of. And for more information on the Black Secret,
Kushim University is brought to you by our amazing sponsor, The Black Secret. Are you ready to dive deep into Black history, economics, wealth building, and self-empowerment? The Black Secret is offering exclusive courses by none other than the Black history man himself, Robin Walker. This is the most powerful Black studies course on offer for the entire Black world. And guess what? You can get started today by simply using our special link, which you can find in the video description. Be sure to apply our coupon code Kimbunga to get another 20% off your membership. And there's more. Want to get a taste of what the Black Secret has to offer? You can also claim the book 100 Black History Facts absolutely free. Link in the description. So what are you waiting for? Expand your mind, unlock a world of knowledge, claim your free book, and let the Black Secret guide you on a journey of discovery and empowerment.
Click on the link below or subscribe to get more information. Class is in session. Hello, this is Robin Walker. I'm the Black History Man. This is Kushim University, and class is in session. The presentation is called The West African Empire of Ghana. The ruler of Ghana was the richest king on the face of the earth. West Africa is the center of where it's at in terms of economic activity. On the earth, West Africa is where it's at.
Yes, brothers and sisters, Kushim University returning to you on Kulichaguli Day, the 30th of September, as sponsored by The Black Secret. Link to join The Black Secret and take advantage of the most comprehensive online Black Studies course, brothers and sisters, currently in the known universe, brothers and sisters. Yes, indeed, the most comprehensive, brothers and sisters. As somebody who has studied with and under Robin Walker, try know that you will not be disappointed. You will not be shortchanged by Professor, the People's Professor, the Black History Man himself, Robin Walker, and the online course, which has 3 different tiers or 3 different levels and modules. Many different modules within those 3 different stages, brothers and sisters, of study. All right, levels of study. So please do check out if you're looking to sharpen and your Black historical lens, your lens in terms of Black philosophy, movements, and so on and so forth. You would not want to miss this opportunity. And as the advert says, if you want to, please join by the link in the description to The Black Secret, which is in the description to the video, and you will get 20% off if you type in our code Kimbunga. Yes, if you use our code in the checkout, you will get 20% off your subscription and membership to The Black Secret. You don't want to miss it, brothers and sisters. I encourage you, and we look forward to getting your feedback for those of you who do actually go through the course material. We also want to inform you of the fact that tomorrow, we are going to be joined by the brother Black Panther. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters, also known as Benjamin Njie, also known as Ogun Nimi. And we are going to be discussing African spirituality for children of the African diaspora. The brother, Black Panther, is in fact a author of the book by the title African Spirituality for Children of the African Diaspora. And so we're going to be discussing all things African spirituality tomorrow, brothers and sisters, from the hour of 6 p.m. EST, as if you're across the water. It's starting evening time for Uno, and that's 11 p.m. for us over here in the UK, brothers and sisters. We're accommodating our brother Black Panther and the times that best suit him, and so we are starting a little bit later than usual for our UK brothers and sisters, but comfortably, I'm sure, and conveniently for our brothers and sisters across the water in the United States, in the Caribbean, in South and Central America. And so we give and Canada, so I should say North America, Caribbean, South and Central America, and so we give thanks for all those who are looking to join us. But I guarantee you, it's going to be a beautiful and a powerful conversation. So do stay tuned. There are more announcements. We're going to be joined by brother Ahmed Caballo on the 1st of October. On the 1st of October, dealing with the issue of Sudan. And we're also going to be joined by Elder Cecil Gutsmore on the 3rd of October, dealing with the African culture of the Caribbean. But do stay tuned for more information on all such matters, brothers and sisters. We're going in. And there's going to be a few more shows on African spirituality in October, as well as the fact that our Kushim University that will be released in October will also be focused on the issue of African spirituality. But do stay tuned for all these things, kings and queens. All right. So we're there. I want to encourage you to like up the video as you come through. Hit that like button. Share the link far and wide. Many people know that Shakara is live on Kimbunga Media. And we're going to be discussing Africa Must Unite, Practical versus Utopian. We're also going to discuss a little piece of boxing. We're going to discuss, the origins of gangster rap. We're also going to, touch on a few other current events, brothers and sisters, before we get into our main topic. So we're going in. I also, because I often neglect to do this, but we also have a Patreon. Yeah, give thanks to all those who are currently members of our Patreon. And we want to encourage ones and ones. If you want to contribute to the forward development of Kimbunga Media, which is very, very necessary in this time, please do hit up our Patreon. You can join our Patreon. Well, you can subscribe free if you want to, but for those who want to actually contribute, you can subscribe for as little as £1 and as much as 20. Yeah, so those are the current tiers at the moment, brothers and sisters. And we appreciate all of your contributions in advance. We're soon going to be engaging a drive to get at least 100 people on our Patreon. Yeah, at the £1 level at the very least. Okay, and so that helps us to maintain our running costs for shows such as these and all of the programs and the software and the rare data that we have to use to maintain and bring you what we bring you, brothers and sisters. And so do stay tuned for that particular drive right there. But once again, giving thanks to all those who are currently members of our Patreon. All contributions are gratefully received. Make we get into the topics them fit today. Yeah, make we get into the topics them fit today. First and foremost, brothers and sisters, we can't have a show after a weekend like we did have and not talk about that something, yeah. Yeah, we have to talk about that something, yeah. Because right about now, the whole of London, the whole of UK, yeah, it seemed was poised at the television screen on the 21st, Saturday 21st of September to take in the heavyweight bout between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters, and many, many people had comments about this one. Me not know anybody in the world that expected the result that we got, brothers and sisters. Yeah, nobody that I know of, yeah, was expecting Daniel Dubois to win this fight. All right, nobody, yeah, that I know of. Yeah, now obviously. All right, we did watch my thing bootleg because we decided we're not give the zone the money. You know what I'm saying? All right, and we're taking. So I missed piece of it as well. Yeah, but what became apparent to me is that Joshua didn't fight well. All right, and that was the most obvious thing, and it feels a way to say that because you don't want to take nothing away from Dubois. Yeah, because he did actually fight a good fight, but Joshua did not. Yeah. But the reason why I'm raising this today, brothers and sisters, it's going to be interesting to see how things progress, yeah, for both boxers going forward. But it's only today, like I said, I missed the beginning of the fight. It's only today that I actually watched the ring walk. Only today that I actually watched the ring walk. And when we watched the ring walk, we said Dubois coming out the ring to the sounds of General by the Crown Prince. I'm about to say Prince Lincoln. The Crown Prince of reggae music, Dennis Brown. And Daniel by Prince Allah, noted Rastafari reggae artist. Them tune, they serious tune. So my thing is this. Yeah, Anthony Joshua, yeah. You have to change up the vibration, brethren, when you come to the ring because it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult to defeat them energy there. You know what I mean? When a man conjure up them Rastafari energy there with Prince Allah and Dennis Brown, you have to go deep in some guzum, yeah, for defeat that brother there. You know what I mean? So Anthony Joshua, if you're listening, yeah, make it go in at the fella, you know what I mean, and draw for 2 King Sonny are there. And all of these things, yeah. You have to go deeper in the dub box when you're coming at the ring. If you want to defeat, the energy of Dennis Brown and Prince Allah. You can't come with a little pure music. See it? Yeah, and defeat Dennis Brown and Prince Allah. Yeah, let's take my foolish advice. All right, Anthony Joshua. You know what I mean? I got a solid thing. Yes, kings and queens. All right. So that's that on the boxing, brothers and sisters. But like I said, I'm not a boxing aficionado, but it was apparent to me that Joshua did not fight a good fight. Yeah, I couldn't believe what I was watching. The shot that knocked him out was like, I mean, it's like it's like he was begging for that shot. You know what I'm saying? The whole even face exposed and he was walking at the shot. It's foolishness. You know what I mean? But respect to both the man them. You know what I'm saying? And we hope they're both doing well. In particular, Joshua, because we know it's hard, to lose a fight under such circumstances. Next on our list of current events that we're going to just run through very, very quickly, let's deal with Candace Owens, brothers and sisters. Candace Owens, the woman who became famous as a part of the black face of the alt-right over the last 5 years to a decade. She became famous as the black face of the alt-right. In other words, when the so-called alt-right, the alternative right, was rising, Candace Owens was their champion of melanated complexion in the United States of America. Candace Owens has done everything from defend police officers who kill black people in cold blood on the streets of America. Candace Owens has masked her disdain for movements of Africans in America who are fighting against police brutality and black deaths at the hands of the police by narrowing and zeroing in on the institution of Black Lives Matter, negating all of the other formations, that our people organize in the United States of America, and making an example of Black Lives Matter on behalf of the white alt-right in America. She has gone before the House of Representatives to tell them why Africans in America do not deserve and should not receive reparatory justice for enslavement, Jim Crow, and all of the other injustices that our people in America have suffered. And then she got in trouble, with her bosses at the institution for which she used to work, the Daily Wire, and ever since has been trying to reform herself as a black commentator and a defender of black issues and black culture, brothers and sisters. And so her latest attempt in this, by the way, after she left the Daily Wire, was fired from the Daily Wire, she could be found on almost every black platform of note, trying to restore some level of credibility, brothers and sisters. There are few people, brothers and sisters, that I have more disdain for than Africans who knowingly, openly, deliberately dance, shuffle, and grift at the altar of white power. There's a lot of people doing that right now. You know what I'm saying? For some reason, with the elections in the United States of America, for example, whilst we know that just like in the UK, the black community in America tends to overwhelmingly vote for the left-leaning party, namely the Democrats in America and the Labour Party in the UK. Generally speaking, because their policies are said, at least in rhetoric, to be advocating or more beneficial to those who are of the so-called working class, which represents the overwhelming majority of the black population in both nations, historically speaking. But there's a move among black people in both nations, the UK and the USA, to critique that allegiance, to the Labour Party and the Democratic Party, an allegiance which should be critiqued. But when they critique that allegiance, they do so in advocacy of and to the benefit of the right-leaning party, namely the Conservatives in the UK and the Republicans in the United States of America. And so Candace Owens is one who is vehemently against Kamala Harris at the moment advocating the policies of Donald Trump. And she's among many of the black community who have seen fit to jump on the Trump bandwagon and the Republican bandwagon with the pretense that they're doing so in the interest of African people. Tariq Nasheed is another one of said individuals, even though his advocacy is, I was going to use the word a little more subtle, but maybe saying that it's a little more subtle is probably an insult to any intelligent mind that is viewing the regular tweets that come from his account recently. But at least, let's say he tries to give the impression, that he's more a critiquer of the Democrats than an advocate of Trump, brothers and sisters. Because for some reason, Kamala Harris, the questions over Kamala Harris's blackness seem to make her an unviable candidate, for the black community to vote for, whilst Trump's whiteness doesn't invalidate him. This is an interesting dynamic, brothers and sisters. All right, you know what I'm saying? As I said on my Twitter account recently, there are Africans in America who critique allegiance to the Democratic Party in the interest of African people in and from America and worldwide. And then there are those that critique allegiance to the Democratic Party on behalf of the Republicans. And we have to know the difference. And I shared an example of the former on my Twitter account, which is a sister whose name is slipping me at the moment. She has a beautiful Igbo name, if I'm not mistaken, but she's from the All African People's Revolutionary Party in the United States of America. And she shared a critique of Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party and the propaganda that is being used, to seduce Africans in America into voting for Kamala, as though we're going to get we, as in the collective we, African people in America, are going to get anything more beneficial from it. And she made a statement clear, we can't just vote on the basis of Trump is bad. Nonsense, that. You know what I mean? We have to have our own agenda and our own interests. But Candace Owens, brothers and sisters, let's deal with Candace, That's the subject that we're on at the moment. Candace Owens and gangster rap. We could talk about Candace Owens and gangster rap. Candace Owens tweeted this out recently. All right. And so this is now, whereas, these black faces of the alternative right kind of made their name, diminishing black culture, right? Diminishing black culture, and lauding American, British equals white culture, and attempting to cajole black people into discarding black culture and becoming more civilized through American and British equals white culture. When they get there, you're still a nigger wake-up call, as Candace Owens received from Ben Shapiro and the rest of her bosses at the Daily Wire. They then now rejig their narrative to try and give the impression that they were in fact defenders of white culture. Yes, this is the ploy, all right? And they're defending white culture from the powers that be, namely the government, because they're never going to include the corporations, because these are defenders of free market fundamentalism. And so the problem has to be the government. It cannot be the corporations and the government in concert with each other, because the corporations and the government represent white power in its totality. They have to, they'll talk about feds. So the feds is a government thing. Okay. So not the record companies, but the government. And she says, and I'm highlighting these things because I want us to just, pay attention to the grift. All right. And the subtleties of the grift. Because there are many people, brothers and sisters, at the moment who have jumped on the Candace bandwagon. And Guan says, she's dropping facts. She's speaking the truth. They tried to shut her down because she's a voice of speaking truth to power. and I kind of shaggy. No, Candace Owens is a tool, yes, of the alt-right that got slapped up because she decided to not toe the line on one particular issue. Yeah, on one particular issue, and so now she's tried to reform herself, yeah, and reshape herself in a new image. And Candace Owens says, gangster rap was never black culture. Yeah. Now, most of these people, when they come forward, there's a few of them over here as well, yeah, that they denigrate black culture. They say things like everybody has an underclass. Yeah, this is a common narrative among said people, but it's only black culture that tries to make our underclass the main dish, the representation of the culture. And so black culture is therefore trash. This is the normal narrative, yeah? But when they get there, you're still a nigga wake-up call, they shift the narrative slightly and say, gangster rap was never black culture, yeah? All right? So now they're defending black culture from this phenomenon called gangster rap, yeah? It was created by the feds who preferred deals to homosexual black men in prison and then turned them into artificial celebrities. The goal was to create false idols to destroy black American values, yeah? Now, before she gets the you're still a nigga wake-up call, black American values is not important. What's important is American values minus the black, all right? You have to be very, very clear, yeah? Just note the difference in strategies, yeah, and rhetoric, all right? At one point, it was about American values. Now, it's black American values, yeah? I will never change my mind on this. Now, what Shakara you're saying? She not saying nothing wrong, Shakara, yeah? She has said the right thing, Shakara. What she has said is true, Shakara, yeah? What she has said is true. That's what they, you know, some of you are saying right about now. All right. Some of you are saying that. Yeah. All right. The truth is, brothers and sisters, that what dear sister Candace is engaged in here is rhetorical sleight of hand and deception. Because I grew up in the Pan-African community, the Black nationalist community, which is an international community. And so we were educated, yeah, from very, very young about the relationship between record companies, the legal arm of the entertainment industry, and the entertainment industry in general, and black art coming out of the culture of Africans in America, black people in America, our brothers and sisters in America. And when people railed against so-called gangster rap, it was black nationalists and Pan-Africanist communities, activists and sufficiently informed scholars and sufficiently informed people that were saying, well, actually, the roots of hip-hop and rap music didn't represent what is being mass marketed to black communities in America and all over the world right now, yeah, dealing with the era that became referred to as gangster rap. It was said communities as well as the artists who are making the music that said, actually, the music that we were making was actually we referred to it as reality rap. And it was the media and the record companies and the industry that gave it the label gangster rap. Yeah. And so oftentimes the so-called gangster rap phenomena was contextualized in a manner that was designed, yes, within the Pan-African and the Black nationalist communities, that was designed to highlight the fact that Black music was not in the control of Black communities, but white record companies and white media and entertainment industry institutions who were marketing to a mass white audience, because it was mostly white people that were buying the records, what they wanted to market, rather than the depth and the breadth of what black people in America were creating. So what she's done here, she's borrowed piece of the argument. She's taken a piece of the conscious community argument, so to speak, and tried to reshape it in a way that is appealing to the alt-right, the white alt-right. Yeah, brothers and sisters. She's injected it with some white alt-rightism. And in particular, what I'm referring to here is this talk about deals to homosexual black men in prison. I don't know what she's talking about there. I have no idea what she's referring to there, brothers and sisters. I know what the feds and record companies, well, she ain't said record companies. I've put that in there. Yeah. I don't know what she's talking about there, brothers and sisters. I don't know what she's referring to at that, in relation to that. Yeah. All right. So maybe Candace Owens can shine some light on that. Okay. Yeah. But the grift and the deception in the statement, brothers and sisters, is to be found in what she will never refer to. Because Candace Owens will never contextualize the rise of the phenomena referred to as gangster rap in the context of the destruction and ghettoization of black communities in the United States of America. She will never contextualize it in the context of the impact of the administrations of Ronald Reagan and George Bush Sr. She will never contextualize it in the context of the attack of the American government on the Black Power movement and the deliberate influx of Class A drugs into black communities in the United States of America, deliberately designed to destabilize the Black Power movement and the community in general. She's not going to contextualize the phenomena of gangster rap, as they refer to it, and the context that gave rise to the phenomena, i.e. the crack era, as a deliberate agenda of the American government. She will charge the American government for creating the phenomenon of gangster rap, but not the realities as they were imposed upon black communities in the United States. She's not going to talk about deindustrialization and how that impacted the economic standing of black families, black family values. She's not going to talk about that. She's not going to talk about the corporations, brothers and sisters, and their role in the marketing and proliferation of the so-called gangster rap phenomena, brothers and sisters. She's not going to talk about them things there. And that is the deception of a Candace Owens. She'll deal with the window dressing in an appeal to reshape her image as somehow pro-black in all its pro-Americanness. She would deal with the symptom while ignoring the cause. She would deal with the headache while ignoring the brain tumor, because her interest is the defense and maintenance of white power in the form of the United States of America. We should not be fooled by these individuals and their grifts, brothers and sisters. And with that, we're going to leave Candace Owens to one side. We're done with Candace Owens for today. Brothers and sisters, next issue that I want to touch on very quickly, and we're only going to touch on it for time, but it's an issue that could take up the whole show. I was a little bit late on this issue, brothers and sisters. Yeah, I saw images of this brother being shared on a few of my social media, and I didn't know who he was at all. Yeah, and it was only really late last night into this morning that I realize what the situation was. Yeah. That our brother Marcellus Khalifa Williams, who had been on death row for something like 20 years, brothers and sisters, after being charged with murder, and was given the death penalty and was put to death, brothers and sisters, yesterday evening. Yeah, something like 1 minute past 7 EST in Missouri. Yeah. And when you look at this case, brothers and sisters, it is heart-wrenching. Yeah. Because it seems that our brother was in fact innocent of the crime that he was convicted of. And not only does it seem like he was innocent, the evidence of his innocence seems to be overwhelming. And there were appeals. I'm hearing that millions of people signed a petition. Let me bring up a couple of videos here. I'm sure many brothers and sisters are aware of this situation, but for those who may not be aware, let us share some information. Yeah, I'm going to share 2 snippets from 2 different news reports. One is CNN, and the other is Democracy Now. Just so we can get some understanding of what's happened here. Yeah, brothers and sisters. Yeah, it's a I don't know, man. This is a very, very sad situation right here.
Tonight, a Missouri man has been executed by the state, but a deeply...
Sorry.
Tonight, a Missouri man has been executed by the state, but a deeply unsettling question remains. Was Marcellus Williams innocent? He was accused of killing Felicia Gale in 1998, but a re-examination of evidence raised questions about whether he actually did it. After years of investigations and hearings, Missouri Governor Mike Parsons stepped in this year and ordered the execution to move forward. Now, that was despite prosecutors, Williams's family, and even the family of Gale pleading to spare Williams's life. Now, that did not happen. And tonight, a last-ditch appeal to the Supreme Court was rejected with a 6-3 vote falling along ideological lines. A devout practicing Muslim, Williams' last words were, "All praise be to Allah in every situation." The man's last meal, chicken wings and tater tots. And at 7:01 p.m. Eastern Time tonight, Marcellus Williams was given the lethal injection of the sedative pentobarbital, and 9 minutes later, he was pronounced dead.
At one point,
they go on to describe what happened after he was injected. Yeah, and I just want to play this this Democracy Now report because it goes into a little bit more detail as to why his innocence sorry, this news report was released hours before he was actually scheduled to be assassinated effectively. And so it just gives some extra details here. So I'm going to play this.
11 white jurors and 1 black juror after the prosecution was allowed to preemptively strike out 6 other prospective black jurors. Williams always maintained his innocence. The jurors The prosecutor and the murder victim's family all oppose Williams' execution. For more, we're joined in Kansas City, Missouri by Tricia Rojo Bushnell, Marcellus Williams attorney, executive director of the Midwest Innocence Project. Welcome to Democracy Now! We only have a few minutes, but it's possible that Marcellus Williams only has a few hours. Can you explain what you are calling for and what this case at the last minute is all about?
Yes, at this time, we're asking for what Marcellus Williams has been asking for 23 years, which is for a court to take a full and accurate review of the proceedings before it. Right now, for the first time ever, a few weeks ago, the prosecutor had to take the stand and testify under oath about his strikes that he used during the jury selection process. And at that hearing, he testified that he, at least in part, struck a juror based on his race. Yet right now, we have yet to...
So that alone should call into question the verdict. Yeah, I can't remember the technical terminology for that specific infringement. Yeah, but it should lead to some kind of a finding of a miscarriage of justice here, or a mistrial or something. There's a specific terminology that's not in my head, but when the prosecutor comes out and says, in terms of jury selection, that he struck a potential juror, purely because of race, it's quite a serious thing. And the fact that he would admit that is serious business. Yeah, like...
yet to have a court who will fully examine and review that evidence. We know that that's a violation of the Constitution. The prosecutor agrees that violated Williams' constitutional rights, but what we see is a system that's looking at finality over fairness.
Now, this is a nation that prides itself on its adherence to its constitution, and it is openly before the nation and the world, yeah, violating the constitutional rights of a man on death row. If they get this wrong, this man cannot come back on the physical plane. Openly before the world. The last time I saw something like this on such a scale, because it happens more than we may realize, was Tookie Williams. That was about a decade ago. If I'm not mistaken, 2013 is when they lethally injected Stanley Tookie Williams, one of the founding members of the Crips. Yeah, it's a... Let me play the rest of this thing.
Rushing to get to an execution date instead of taking the time to stop this execution and look at the merits of what is being argued.
And what was the main evidence against him? And could you talk about the advanced DNA testing or what is revealed about the murder weapon?
Yes. So Mr. Williams was convicted based on what we know is a leading cause of wrongful conviction, which is essentially informant testimony. So this is a murder where there were no leads for months and months. And then at some point, the police suggested to the victim's husband that he should offer a reward. And it was only then, after a $10,000 reward had been offered, that the first informant came forward, a jailhouse informant, who said also that he wouldn't testify until he got the money. The information he provided was information that was essentially out in the public sphere from the newspaper, but he also provided information about another informant, a woman named Laura Asaro, who had had connections to Marcellus Williams in the past. She also not only had incentivized by the reward money, but police forced her to talk by picking her up on her own warrants and saying, we can arrest you and charge you with these crimes unless you help us here. At the time of the crime, there was a number of pieces of forensic evidence, including bloody footprints and hairs found at the crime scene, all of which exclude Marcellus Williams.
So to repeat, brothers and sisters, all DNA evidence, there's male DNA evidence on the murder weapon and at the crime scene. None of it connects to Marcellus Khalifa Williams, brothers and sisters. Absolutely none of it. Yeah? This man was killed, murdered by the state of Missouri yesterday evening.
In 2015, however, Mr. Williams requested additional DNA testing of the murder weapon, which was a knife found still protruding from the victim's body. That DNA testing was performed. Male DNA was found on that murder weapon, and it excludes Marcellus Williams. He is not the person who left that DNA on the knife. Based on all of that evidence, the prosecutor reviewed the case, brought forward this motion to overturn Mr. Williams' conviction on the basis of innocence, as well as on the basis of these constitutional violations, including racial discrimination. But on the day before the evidentiary hearing, new DNA testing came in that showed that the DNA on that knife could be consistent with the trial prosecutor's DNA and the trial prosecutor's investigator. At the evidentiary hearing, we've now learned that they mishandled that knife. They touched it without gloves in 2001 repeatedly, essentially destroying any potential probative value this critical evidence would have, which is what the prosecutor now also concedes was a constitutional violation.
So we see, brothers and sisters, that the innocence of our brother Marcellus Khalifa Williams is at least, the guilty verdict is at least severely in question. And our brother is almost certain to have been innocent of the crime that they convicted him of. But yet he was still put to death. And you know what incensed me the most? I saw on Twitter some people trying to use this as a political, partisan political issue. Asking the question, what has Joe Biden and Kamala Harris said about this thing? I haven't heard anybody from the other side say anything about it either. The only politicians I've actually heard say anything about it are the vice presidential Green Party candidate, Professor Butch Weir. Yeah. It incensed me to no end to see people trying to use this issue as a Democrats versus Republican thing. Like we don't know what going on, so. My heart goes out to this brother, his family. I'm made to understand he has children. My heart goes out to our people in the United States of America, particularly in Missouri. May the family find strength at this moment in time, and may our brother's spirit be at rest now that he's on making his ascendancy to become an ancestor. Our brother was a Muslim, which was reflected in his last statement, which the final words of which were words to the effect that all praises be to Allah in all situations. It's a very humbling final word to consider. I can't say that. I know many of my Muslim brothers and sisters were very comforted by that. I can't say that I felt necessarily the same, although I was struck, by the humility of our brother and the depth of his faith in that regard. But this is I'm lost for words at the moment, brothers and sisters, so forgive me, but it's a mad, sad situation, and it just goes to show that we will never receive true justice under these systems, brothers and sisters. Any illusion to justice is fleeting, temporary, and an illusion. You know what I mean? So as we would say, Mojuba, 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 we honor the life of our brother, Marcellus Khalifa Williams. May you rise on the wings of Ma'at after a favorable judgment in the Council of Asa. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. All right, brothers and sisters. It's a heavy issue. And maybe we'll come back to it at another point. But I do want to touch on an update from African Stream. We know that our brothers and sisters at African Stream, the institution of African Stream, a premier Pan-African media platform, has been under attack by the US government and extensions in private corporations that are allegiant to white power, in the United States of America. Well, it has transpired yesterday, African Stream shared the news that its TikTok account, has also been taken down. I checked this. Sorry, let me share the wrong something. Hold on there. Sorry, brothers and sisters. Same app, different window. May I have to share? All right. Yeah. So its TikTok account, has also been taken down. So we know up to date, we know that African Stream has been deplatformed from YouTube. African Stream was deplatformed from Facebook. African Stream was deplatformed from Instagram twice because its backup account was also removed. And its TikTok and its Twitter was remaining, although its Twitter, the Stripe account associated with its Twitter was actually shut down and locked down. So they were no longer able to use Stripe and monetize through Twitter, or now known as X. TikTok was still standing, and it would be true to say that TikTok is where African Stream made the most noise. They had close to 1 million followers on TikTok. Okay, many of the videos that went viral from African Stream as a result of their TikTok. All right, and we know that there's been some economic warfare between the American state and the Chinese state in relation to TikTok, because TikTok, as far as the American government sees it and associated corporations, is an arm of the Chinese government. So you might have thought, brothers and sisters, that if they're gonna keep their platform, one platform is gonna be TikTok, because TikTok is not governed under the jurisdiction of America, its government, and its corporations. So when African Stream puts out the information, TikTok has now taken down African Stream's account. We had just under 1 million followers on TikTok. What are they scared of? Then they show the screenshot. Your account was permanently banned due to multiple violations of our community guidelines. Now the lucky thing is that at least TikTok gives them the opportunity to download them data, right? It would seem, and I hope that they were able to do so. But I'll be interested to know what went into this particular deplatforming, because it seems on the face of it, to be outside of the interest that were involved in the deplatforming of African Stream on all of the other platforms. Now, having said that, the talk has been, we need our own, we need our own, we need our own. Yes, we need our own. But I'm planning a conversation entitled, We Need Our Own, Beyond the Mantra. Because I feel like a lot of us are comfortable just repeating the mantra, we need our own. And we don't really know where it's going to take for us to build our own. We're not really invested in identifying the steps for us to really have our own, and the progressive steps, because we're not going to have our own just so. Abracadabra, alakazam, and so it go around here. Having our own is going to be a process of consistent building through progressive stages. And so we're going to be facilitating a conversation with a guest or two on that subject, brothers and sisters. It's going to be a powerful one, so do stay tuned for that. But as for Kimbunga Media, for as long as we have not been deplatformed, we are going to stand with Afrikan Stream. Yeah, 100%. And as I said earlier, our brother, founder and director, CEO of Afrikan Stream, Ahmed Kabalo, will be joining us on the 1st of October. I don't know how much he's going to have to say on this situation because Afrikan Stream is currently engaging their legal processes, brothers and sisters. But he will be here to speak to us about Sudan, and I'm sure he will have something to say on the attack on Afrikan Stream. Yeah, but just to inform you of one of the updates, that TikTok has now removed Afrikan Stream's account and all of its content, brothers and sisters. Serious thing agwan in this time. The attack on Afrikan Stream is the attack on Pan-African media and the Pan-African movement in general. And we would like to reiterate that the attack on Afrikan Stream has been waged because of how Afrikan Stream, how effective Afrikan Stream had become in the dispensation of Pan-African news, or news from a Pan-African perspective. The attack on Afrikan Stream is a reflection of not just the effectiveness of the content of Afrikan Stream, but the effectiveness of the infrastructure that Afrikan Stream is developing to dispense the content of Afrikan Stream. And I say is, not was, because Afrikan Stream is not gone. It is not destroyed. It has not disappeared. Afrikan Stream is still here. And the attack on Afrikan Stream is a reflection of the fact that the content of Afrikan Stream and the infrastructure of Afrikan Stream was winning the propaganda war, brothers and sisters. They were showing the signs of a successful propaganda machinery that had the capabilities to win the propaganda war on behalf and for the minds of African people. Let us not be under any illusions. This idea that they were a front for Russia today and the Russian government is complete nonsense. Complete nonsense, brothers and sisters. Yes. They have been attacked for representing Pan-African issues and being effective in representing said issues. All right. So we're going to leave that there. We're going to leave that there. And then we're going to get into, a little bit later than scheduled, our major topic for this evening's proceedings. All right, brothers and sisters. So, as I said at the beginning of the show, Saturday gone, Emmanuel Day gone. The 21st of September was the birthday of the Asajafo Kwame Nkrumah. And so I thought it would be good, to delve into some exploration of this concept of the United States of Africa, the Union of African States. All right. And I may do less of the reading than I had originally intended to, brothers and sisters. Yeah, but we're going to go through some things anyway. All right. And so whilst I've been dealing with current issues, current events a while ago, people often rightly critique Pan-Africanists, Pan-African organizations, Pan-African media for an overabundance on history, the teaching of history and the contextualizing of history. And I say rightly because there is a need to balance the historical analysis more effectively with contemporary analysis of contemporary modern day issues. Yeah, that's a fact. There is a need for us to do that. Yeah, which is what we attempt to do here, which is what African Stream is doing. Right. At the same time, man makes no apology for delving deep into the historical analysis and providing historical context for our current issues. Because without understanding, it's a cliche, you know, it's a cliche. It's so much of a cliche that people fail to understand its actual meaning and its practical application. That if you don't know where you're coming from, you won't know where you go. That if you fail to understand the history, you're not going to properly understand and appreciate the present, brothers and sisters. It's just not going to happen. Yes. And this is born to be the case. Yeah. Now, I'm very fond, and many will have heard me say before, that during the Brexit referendum, when Britain was deciding whether or not to leave the European Union in 2016, and all of the debates that took place, the number one event in history that was referenced was mass European War II, World War II, which is true. But in reality, mass European War II lays the context for almost the entire geopolitical agenda of today's world, at least as far as the West is concerned. Just as an example, two of the most high-profile wars that are taking place right now, namely Israel's war in Gaza, namely Ukraine and Russia, have to do with the fallout from mass European War II, misnomered World War II. If we're discussing the founding of the State of Israel and its impact upon that region of the world as it relates to not just Palestine, or the State of Israel as it is referred to, but Lebanon and Yemen, Saudi Arabia, etc., etc., etc. All the fallout of mass European War II. What is currently taking place between Ukraine and Russia at this moment in time is also the fallout of mass European War II as it relates to the so-called Cold War, the founding of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, which is a military conglomeration of Western nations designed specifically for the purpose of curtailing the expansion of the Soviet Union, brothers and sisters. Yes. And what is taking place between Ukraine and Russia has its roots in this period just following mass European War II. All right. And so the whole entire Western world, and in some instances, and in many cases, the Eastern world, Eastern European world, that is, are still engaged in the geopolitics and trying to solve the issue, the geopolitical issues coming out of mass European War II. Whilst African people are seduced into a geopolitical consciousness that teaches us we don't really need to pay attention to what our elders and ancestors were doing in that same period. What problems were they trying to solve? And how can we contribute to solving those problems in today's world? The rest of the world is getting their marching orders. Yes, as nations of people from their elders and ancestors, and being at least informed by the problems that they were trying to solve at that time, whilst we have discarded the solving of those problems. And the result of our discarding of the solving of those problems is manifest to see everywhere where we are the majority as African people, whether it's the continent of Africa, whether it is the Caribbean, or where we are the majority in North, South, and Central America, in Europe. in Asia. The result of a generational disconnect and a geopolitical disconnect from the movements of our elders and ancestors and our generations today has had a detrimental impact upon our capacity to solve our own problems in this moment, brothers and sisters. Because whilst everybody is organized and grounded in their history, we are disconnected from ours. And so while we explore the concept of the United States of Africa, or the Union of African States, as exemplified and espoused by Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, is to at least reconnect us with that energy and that vibration and the practicalities, yeah? Because the idea of a United States of Africa is one that has a bad rap, and I'm not even sure I completely like the terminology, but I understand the concept, and I'm completely for it and fight for it and organize for it, brothers and sisters. Is a concept that has been demonized, ridiculed, specifically because it is a concept that in its most revolutionary formation challenges the entire legitimacy of the geopolitical order as it stands at the moment. And so we're going to get some of the logic, brothers and sisters, of our elders and our ancestors right here now, as explained in the text. Africa Must Unite, as written by Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, brothers and sisters. Yeah, if you have not read this book, read this book. It no matter if you don't agree with everything that Kwame Nkrumah says, that's not the point. Yes, connect to the historical context and the problems, yeah, that the Osagyefo was trying to solve. You will not understand the present unless you are able to understand this history. So I'm just going to read a few excerpts from the book to give an idea of the historical context of the time and what problems they were trying to solve, and why a union of African states became an imperative for solving said problems. Yeah. In the introduction, it reads, at this very moment, the Union of South Africa, this is South Africa now, under the colonial regime of white power, what they refer to as apartheid. All right. So he says, at this very moment, the Union of South Africa is building up a military machine comparable with those of the foremost nations of Western Europe. Yeah. Now, when he says they are developing a military machine comparable with the foremost nations of Western Europe, he's talking about atomic nuclear energy. All right. But what is also a fact of history is that it is not just the fact that the Union, the white racist government of South Africa, was developing that machinery. It was developing that military machine with the assistance of Western powers, brothers and sisters. Yeah. In particular, Israel and America during this time. Yeah, it's necessary to know. This presents a most ominous danger, not just to the struggle of those African people still fighting for freedom, but to the very existence of the independent African states. Unless we meet this obvious and very powerful threat with a unified African front based upon a common economic and defense policy, the strategy will be to pick us off and destroy us one by one. So the Osagyefo is recognizing the geopolitical hegemony and solidarity that is being manifested by white power institutions at that time. Yes. And let me just go up. Sorry, I want to just give people an understanding of when this book was in fact published. Yeah, can't forget when the book was published. Right, published in the United States of America in 1963. Yeah, Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown in a coup d'etat in 1966, and he passed away in 1972. Okay, so the book was published 3 years before his government was overthrown, and 9 years before he became an ancestor, brothers and sisters. Yeah. So we just get an idea of the problems that he was trying to solve. This is the 1960s now. Okay. But so bear in mind that a significant amount of Africa and the Caribbean is still under formal colonization during this period. So the African nations and African people around the world are still fighting against the colonial order, whilst the neo-colonial order is being instituted. Yeah, that transition is being made. All right. Our essential bulwark against such sinister threats and the multifarious designs of the neo-colonists is our own political union. If we are to remain free, if we are to enjoy the full benefits of Africa's rich resources, we must unite to plan for our total defense and the full exploitation of our material and human means in the full interest of our people. To go it alone will limit our horizons, curtail our expectations, and threaten our liberty. Yeah. So you see that Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah and many others of that time are reading the signs of the times. They're seeing how global geopolitical institutions of power are organizing and reorganizing themselves in relation to African people. Yes. And they're seeing that wherever the colonial white powers existed, they are either engaged in the process of institutionalizing neocolonialism or trying to maintain, assisting their brothers and sisters in other parts of the world, in other parts of Europe and on the continent, in holding on to their colonial possessions, or maintaining white criminal settler colonies in places like Azania, South Africa, and what was then known as Rhodesia, more popularly Zimbabwe. All right. So there's a geopolitical. This is not a. What was the idea? Now, there's a quote from Papa Garvey. If I got time in the show, maybe I'll read it. Yeah. Where is the idea? Yes. Of unifying African people and all these things has its sentimental, yes, and its spiritual component. And we need not be ashamed, brothers and sisters, of the sentimental, yeah, aspect of our commitment to African unity. Yeah, that's all part of the process. If them can be sentimental, yes, about Britannia and Jerusalem and Israel, if them can be sentimental about the 13 colonies and the constitution, yes, in a them criminal settler colony, yeah, if them can be sentimental about these things, brothers and sisters, yeah, then we can be sentimental about our unity as a people. But it wasn't just a sentimental thing. There was a very definite and definitive geopolitical reality that necessitated a certain level of geopolitical cohesion among African people in order to withstand the continued attacks of the colonizer, the Bakra, the Mozungu, the Oyibo, the Tubab, brothers and sisters. All right? He continues later in the book. Our rate of development will be governed by the surpluses that will be made available out of the heightened productivity, which includes, besides the greater output from labor and increased agricultural yields, the more efficient employment of investment and the resulting increased productivity. Government interference in all matters affecting economic growth is less developed countries is today a universally accepted principle, which is true. And interest, an interest, domestic and foreign, enjoying the opportunities of profitable gain, cannot object to some control of the reinvestment of part of that gain in the national development of the country in which it is reaped. Today, not even the advanced countries dedicated to private enterprise is the principle of laissez-faire allowed absolutely free play. And this is after, again, the mass European War II period, whereby America and Britain and France and so on and so forth had developed these very, very strong and far-reaching welfare states, whilst they were trying to maintain the principle of quote-unquote free trade and laissez-faire in relation to their colonies who are liberating themselves, because they were trying to maintain access to those markets, brothers and sisters, all right, whilst maintaining certain trade barriers among themselves. Restrictions of all kinds interfere with the uninhibited movement of capital. The government of Ghana, while making investment in our own development as attractive as possible, cannot, however, place that development and our ultimate economic independence in jeopardy by surrendering their intrinsic prior requirements. So the major goal, what he's saying here, is the geopolitical and economic liberation of the African continent and African people around the world. And no amount of commitment, to the rhetoric of Western nations in their relationship with us is going to allow us to jeopardize those goals and those aims. We are in a position of geopolitical and economic warfare, which necessitates our ability to protect that which we are developing. That which we are developing. And so the economic rhetoric of the West is not going to allow us, is not going to seduce us into jeopardizing the requirements of our now, which is the fact that we are members of a race and occupiers of a continent that is still to a significant degree colonized. So your interests cannot be the same as ours as it stands right about now. We are not beginning from the same place. Therefore, our policies at this moment in time are not going to be exactly the same. And we're going to be governed by what is required of us to meet our own goals. These requirements are at the central heart of our planning. And in the context of our national independence and advancement, the greater objective of Pan-African unity, they must govern our policies. The road of reconstruction on which Ghana has embarked is a new road, parts of whose topography are only hazily sensed, other parts still unknown. A certain amount of trial and error in following the road is inevitable. Mistakes we are bound to make, and some undoubtedly we have already made. They are our own, and we will learn from them. That is the value of being free and independent, of acquiring our experience out of the consequence of our own decisions, out of the achievements of our own efforts. This should go without saying, but let me just extemporize a little piece. Our ancestor, Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, is saying, now, you notice that when it comes to American government, British government, American and British central banks and commercial banks and related institutions can behave in such a way that it crashes the entire global economy, brothers and sisters. And their failure to manage the economic affairs of the globe, as it stands at the moment, properly and justly, does not lead to a discarding of the geopolitical order of the nations in question, or the geopolitical order as it is imposed upon the rest of the world. They engage in all manner of safeguarding and protection of their geopolitical order while still coming before the world as the leaders of the lands of the free and the home of the brave, the leaders of law and order, constitutional democracy, civilization, etc., etc., etc. Whereas in our case, mistakes that are made, wrong steps here and there in the geopolitical arena are used to justify the assassination of leaders, to justify the overthrow of governments, to justify the rejection and the negation of the policies and the geopolitical order that we were, in fact, in the process of developing. The rhetoric that Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah is speaking to here, or let's just say, put it this way, Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah's words here attack a rhetoric that is so well cemented today, probably beyond his anticipation in 1963, brothers and sisters. Mistakes we are bound to make, and some undoubtedly we have already made. They are our own, and we will learn from them. This is the value of being free and independent, and of acquiring our experience out of the consequences of our own decisions, out of the achievements of our own efforts. I've read this part because I want us to be unashamed and discard any shame that we may feel, that we are seduced into burdening ourselves with about the mistakes that our elders and our ancestors may have made, about the fact that we may not have been strong enough in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s to withstand the onslaught of the embedding of neocolonialism. We should not be ashamed, so ashamed of that fact that we discard the legacies of our elders and ancestors and the problems that they were trying to solve. So ashamed that we refuse and fail to even look into the problems that they were trying to solve and the context of those problems and what inspired particular courses of action. Let us remove and discard that shame, brothers and sisters. Be unashamed, hold our heads high, and be proud of what our ancestors at least attempted to do. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters, attempted to do. And in their attempts, they achieved much. In their attempts, they achieved much, brothers and sisters. I'm going to skip this particular aspect. It's a good aspect. Yeah, I'm going to skip it though. If we've got time, we may come back to it. But we're going to deal with some of the attempts. Yeah, let's deal with some of the attempts at African unity. So from the chapter now, for those who are just coming in, I'm reading from the book Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, Africa Must Unite. And this chapter is called Some Attempts at Unification. The first step towards African political union was taken on the 23rd of November 1958, when Ghana and the Republic of Guinea united to form the nucleus for a union of African states. We established a system of exchange of resident ministers who were recognized as members of both the government of Ghana and the government of Guinea. The following year, in July 1959, the presidents of Liberia and Guinea and I met at the Saniquil. I can't pronounce them big European word, yeah. Saniquil, it no matter. Saniquili, to discuss the whole question of African emancipation and unity. At the end of our talks, we issued a declaration of principles in which we stated that the name of our organization would be the Community of Independent African States. members of the community would maintain their own national identity and constitutional structure, and each member of the community would agree not to interfere in the internal affairs of any other member. The general policy of the community would be to build up a free and prosperous African community for the benefit of its peoples and the peoples of the world. The policy would be founded on the maintenance of diplomatic, economic, and cultural relations on the basis of equality and reciprocity with all the states of the world which adopt positions compatible with African interests. One of its main objectives would be to help African territories not yet free to gain their independence. Now, this manifested in what was called the Ghana, Guinea, Mali Union. Suffice to say, Liberia didn't stay the course. Yeah. He continues, membership of the community was declared open to all independent African states and federations, and any non-independent country of Africa was given the right to join the community on attainment of independence. The motto adopted for the community was independence and unity. On the 24th December 1960, I met President Sekou Touré of Guinea and President Modibo Keïta of Mali, Ghana, Guinea, Mali Union. Yeah. At Conakry, which is in Guinea, with the result that a special committee met in Accra from the 13th to the 18th of January 1960 to formulate proposals for a Ghana, Guinea, Mali union. The three of us had a further series of meetings in Accra from the 27th of the 29th of April in 1961 and agreed upon a charter. Our union was named the Union of African States and was to form the nucleus of the United States of Africa. It was declared open to every state or federation of African states which accepted its aims and objectives. Articles 3 and 4 of the Charter contain the aims and activities of the Union, and I quote them below in full. So this is Article 3 now, yeah? The aims of the Union of African States are as follows: to strengthen and develop ties of friendship and fraternal cooperation between the member states politically, diplomatically, economically, and culturally, to pool their resources in order to consolidate their independence and safeguard their territorial integrity. Yeah. So bear in mind now that, again, the context is 1963 is when this book is published. Many nations, many peoples on the African continent and in the Caribbean for that matter are still colonized. Yes. And so territorial integrity is in question even for the states that have freed themselves from the yoke of colonialism. It's a precarious position to be in. Okay, to work jointly to achieve the complete liquidation of imperialism, colonialism, and neocolonialism in Africa and the building up of African unity, to harmonize the domestic and foreign policy of its members so that their activities may prove more effective and contribute more worthily to safeguarding the peace of the world. Article 4, the union's activities shall be exercised mainly in the following fields. So this was intended to be the main areas of activity of the Ghana, Guinea, Mali Union and any of the nations that would subsequently join the union. Domestic policy, the working out of a common orientation of the states. Yeah. Foreign policy, the strict observance of a concerted diplomacy calculated to achieve closer cooperation. Defense, the organization of a system of joint defense which will make it possible to mobilize all means of defense at the disposal of the state in favor of any state of the union which may become victim to aggression. Okay? Colonial aggression was still a fact of life during this period of time, brothers and sisters. The United States of America had sent troops, yes, to Central Africa in order to to take part in the assassination of Patrice Lumumba, but also to quell, to help the sellouts that it had helped to get in power in Congo, in squashing rebellions against that corrupt government of Moise Tshombe and Joseph Mobutu and others, brothers and sisters. Yes? Israel, the white minority ruled Anglo-Boers in South Africa and America were also sending mercenaries, yes, to squash the anti-apartheid movement throughout Southern Africa. That includes South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, Angola, Zimbabwe, etc. Yeah. So this is the context in which all this is taking place. And everywhere you look, you're seeing geopolitical unity, geopolitical conglomerations among various different white power nation states for the sake of either maintaining colonialism or instituting neocolonialism. It required a certain level, yes, of coordination, solidarity, and organization among African people and the African states that were becoming independent during this time. It's necessary for us to know these things because oftentimes, yes, the concept of African unity and a United States of Africa and Union of African States is utopianized as though it was just a fantasy in the minds, yes, of Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, Marcus Garvey, and Patrice Lumumba, and Dedan Kimati, and Winnie Mandela. No, there was serious issues. Yes, serious geopolitical realities necessitated this thing. Yeah. Economy, defining a common set of directives relating to economic planning, aiming to complete decolonization of the setups inherited from the colonial system. So that's a problem that even Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana didn't quite resolve. Yeah. That so much of the colonial infrastructure and institutionalization maintained itself after independence, but they understood at the very least, and he understood the need for us to define a common set of directives relating to economic planning, aiming at the complete decolonization of the setups inherited from the colonial system and organizing the development of the wealth of their countries in the interest of their people, because of the fact that the colonial process was a system in which the economic wealth of the countries was designed to meet the interest of the colonizer. And that particular interest was seeking to be sustained through the imposition of neocolonialism. So we have to have a clear policy, a unified, a collective policy that is designed to negate the interest of the colonizer, would-be neocolonizer, and put it towards the service of our own people's culture, the rehabilitation and development of African culture, and frequent and diversified cultural exchange. Tune in tomorrow for our conversation with Black Panther. Yeah, tune in tomorrow for our conversation with Black Panther. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters, on African spirituality. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know, 6 p.m. if you're across the waters in the US of A and in the Caribbean, EST, yeah, time zone, and 11 p.m. if you're over here in the UK, brothers and sisters, or in Ghana, you know, Nigeria. Some of them are a bit like 1 hour in front or behind us right now, you know what I mean? So yeah, situate yourself from there. All right. Okay, let's get back to the reading. The Charter also provides for regular conferences between the heads of state of the Union. In fact, the supreme executive organ of the Union is the conference, which meets once a quarter in Accra, Bamako, and Conakry, respectively, and is presided over by the head of state of the host country. At these conferences, we exchange views on African and world problems and see how we can best strengthen and widen our union. After the second summit conference of the Union of African States held at Bamako on the 26th of June 1961, we issued a joint communique in which we reaffirmed our determination to continue to support the African peoples in their struggle for national liberation, particularly in Algeria, the Congo, and Angola, which were hotbeds. Yeah, what the French was doing in Algeria, even though we got issues with Algeria in terms of the Arab supremacy that exists there, and the fact that still exists right now. It is fact that what the French had engaged in as far as trying to maintain colonialism in Algeria is nothing short of criminal, yeah, to a significant degree. All right. But so that was a hotbed. Also Congo and Angola, as I've already mentioned, what was going on there. Yeah. So they identified those aspects of particularly hot battles, which they were. On the problem of the European common market, we agreed on a common policy and decided to take joint action in order to establish an African common market. All right. So again, he identifies the problem of the European common market. So after Mass European War II, yeah, the European common market was effectively the precursor to the European Union. Okay. And the European common market was developed out of the realization that in order to redevelop itself after the destruction of Mass European War II, Europe needed a unified effort. But they not only needed a unified effort in terms of redevelopment of Europe, they needed a unified effort in terms of maintaining imperialist control over the world. They were not strong enough to hold on to their colonies formally. But what they did was organize the United Nations and the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank and the GATT agreement, which later became the World Trade Organization, yeah, in order to facilitate their collective global hegemony over the world. And the economic common market of Europe was put in place because of the fact that after the fact that Europe had gone to war with itself, it was considered to be the case that closer economic ties would lessen the possibility of them going to war with each other. But the rest of the world, and in particular their colonies, were not included in these considerations. Yes. Instead, the final thing I'm going to read now, what happened was they formed a European common market for the sake and for the purpose of consolidating their power enough to impose neocolonialism on their colonies and former colonies. I'm going to skip this particular part of the reading, yeah? All right, I'm going to skip this part of the reading. We're going to go into some economic considerations, okay? So this is in the chapter, Economic and Political Integration, Africa's Need. All right. So he goes into now why the European economic common market, the European common market was an issue and how it was being weaponized against African nations at this time. Internal custom barriers can be eliminated. This is now explaining some of the deeper policies that relate to the economic relationship between African nations, yeah, or the intended economic relationship between African nations. Differences in domestic structures accommodated. Currency difficulties must disappear before a current currency. None of our problems is insuperable unless we are set against the solution. In July 1961, customs barriers between Ghana and Upper Volta were removed. Upper Volta is what is today called Burkina Faso. An African Development Institute is to be set up at Dakar to train economists to provide experts who can be sent on request to African states to carry out research and to coordinate policies. This institute, when it is operating, will, it is hoped, go some way towards counteracting the excessive duplication of experimental work that now goes on in Africa because we have no central economic planning organization for directing research and pooling knowledge and experience. So this was similar to what was being done in the Western world at this time. The Western world had developed a community of economists, yes, and people in related disciplines that were liaising across nation states, even across languages, yes, to solve the economic problems of Europe. That's what was taking place at that time, yeah, and share practice, yeah, you know what I'm saying? But you have to also bear in mind that none of these economists and none of these individuals in related disciplines were trying to solve the problems of Europe in a manner that would necessitate the decolonization of Africa, the Caribbean, Asia, etc., etc., etc. All of these economic policies were designed, yes, to either hold onto colonies or put the Western world in a position whereby they were still able to economically benefit from their relationship with their former colonies. There was no economic justice, political liberation, etc., involved in the economic policies of these Europeans. So Africans had to engage in specific investigation of our own situation to our own benefit. Today, the major European powers, confronted with the deepening competitiveness of acquisitive production, intensified by the new scientific inventions, shrinking empires, and the enlargement of the socialist conclave of nations, are forming their associations of nations and corporations and multilateral organizations and so on and so forth, of strength, both economic, political, and military. Let us not forget the military, NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It seems then curiously paradoxical that in this period when national exclusivism in Europe is making concessions to supranational organizations, many of the new African states should cling to their newfound sovereignty as something more precious than the total well-being of Africa, and seek alliances with the states that are combining to balkanize our continent to neo-colonist interests. So in other words, what he's saying is that the European powers are doing their best to formulate transnational power on the basis of whiteness. Yeah? To paraphrase. Whilst many newly independent African nations who are given flag and anthem independence by white power institutions, former colonies, are privileging their relationship with the colonizer and the colonizer's transnational institutions over and above their relationship with other African nations and the development of transnational institutions among ourselves as African people. And that the collective power bases and institutions that the West were developing were designed specifically for such an outcome. That's what he's saying here. Some of these states are aligning themselves with the European associations in the mistaken belief that they will profit sufficiently to prosper their economies. Yeah. Now, this was written in 1963, brothers and sisters. We're 60 years, yes, away from this time now, and we can see definitively that this statement right here, yes, is absolutely true, and the folly of the sensibility has been born before the world for the last 60 years. Some of these states are aligning themselves with the European associations, France, Afrika, in the mistaken belief that they will profit sufficiently to prosper from their economies. It is true that the overseas members of the European Common Market are enjoying at present time at the present time certain benefits from the European Development Fund. Yeah, a significant amount of the money that Europe was getting was gifted to them or loaned to them by the United States of America. There's a passing note. But in the face of the enormous requirements of industrial development, these are infinitesimal in size. The benefits that these African nations who are trying to curry favor with these white nations and their institutions, is whatever benefits they're going to get is infinitesimal. Yes, in the face of the requirements of industrial development, and restricted in character. Out of the applications submitted, the project so far, so all these African nations now are submitting these applications to get projects approved by these Western nations and these Western institutions. Yeah, and he says the projects so far approved ignore the request for the establishment of industries and concentrate on social projects and the building of roads, railways, and ports. Yeah, so we're building roads and railways and ports, but we're discarding the establishment of industries, the development of industries among African people. Yes, these, it is true, are necessary to the fuller development of the fuller development and the raising of welfare, and undoubtedly are welcome additions to the economic and social base. He's talking about the roads and the railways and the ports, etc. But it is wishful thinking not to recognize them as the bribes they are, and to suppose that the European common market, which is devised to increase the welfare of the European member countries, should conscientiously promote industrialization in the raw material producing countries of Africa. What's he saying here? He's saying, brothers and sisters, that the process of neocolonialism is designed to give a new face to the old order. So they're going to facilitate roads and ports, yeah, and so on, for the easier extraction of our mineral resources, in order to maintain our nations in an deindustrialized state. Not a deindustrialized, an unindustrialized state. That the benefits of the European common market are designed to seduce us into superseding our need to develop our productive capacity, industries, into developing better infrastructure to facilitate the extraction of our natural resources for them to exploit and sell back to we in finished ready-made products. That's what he's saying here. All right? But it is wishful thinking not to recognize. Tell me if the man was not correct. 60 years after having written and published this, tell me if the man was not correct. But it is wishful thinking not to recognize them as the bribes they are, and to suppose that the European common market, which is devised to increase the welfare of the European member countries, should conscientiously promote industrialization in the raw material producing countries of Africa. Brothers and sisters, if you want to ask questions or want your comments read out, please at Kimbunga Media, I will read them out. I'm going to be sharing the link once I finish this reading. I'll be finished very, very shortly for anybody who wants to come live and interact with I on any of the subjects that I've raised today. Where was I? It is equally romantic to think that the development fund could ever be big enough to provide anything like the investment capital the African states require for substantial development, as is only to be expected. Emphasis is placed upon modernization and improvement schemes that will increase European economic strength and widen still more the productivity gap between Europe and Africa. These are the kinds of issues that we want to get into when we bring you the Black Group Economic Show, which is currently in development and hopefully will be in production as of next year. Okay, we need to talk about productivity gap. We need to talk about how quote unquote developing nations are seduced out of a concern for development of productive capacity. Yes, manufacturing and things of that nature. We have to talk about how we are being seduced into jumping over the industrial age into the digital age that is built upon Western infrastructure, Western industrialized and digitized infrastructure, which is being manifested today in things such as companies like Digicel and Vodafone owning the national telecommunications of entire nations in Africa and the Caribbean. A reality that would be considered a security threat in any self-respecting Western nation. We have to know these things. Yeah, one more section for read. All right, it's a little long section, so we're going to get through it and open up the lines. All right, so hold tight, brothers and sisters. Give thanks for staying with me. The tariff arrangements of the European Common Market must deepen the divisions between the overseas members and the non-members of the African continent on account of the increased competitiveness that must result between them. Listen carefully. Listen carefully. The tariff arrangements of the European Common Market must deepen. So that now, what he means by this is the tariff arrangement, the arrangements that are being made by the European Common Market in their negotiations with individual African nations, separate and distinct from each other. So the European Common Market is negotiating with Nigeria by itself, Liberia by itself, yeah, Cote d'Ivoire by itself, Upper Volta by itself, Togo by itself. But they're coming as a collective European market. The tariff arrangements of the European Common Market must deepen the divisions between the overseas members and non-members of on the African continent on account of the increased competitiveness that must result between them. Quota restrictions and depressed prices can be the only outcome. In his comprehensive, so let me just explain that. So for example, you want cocoa, yeah? Instead of Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire and Burkina Faso, then known as Upper Volta, collectivizing and developing a common cocoa industry, what happens is the European Common Market is able to come to Cote d'Ivoire by itself, Ghana by itself, and Upper Volta, colonial name, by itself, and negotiate to create competition between those three cocoa producing nations. And what happens is the nature of that competition creates further geopolitical divisions between those three nations and also depresses the price of the cocoa. That became very significant in relation to the dynamics of West Africa at the time, and even the presidency of South Africa. That's another subject for another time. But the point is that because they're able to create competition between those three nations, they are able to create a situation whereby they can get a lower price. Yes? Okay. In his comprehensive guide to the common market, Stuart Della Mahorte forecast the extension of industrial monopolies to deal with the keen competition which will develop between the European members of the market, and declares that the key note to success will undoubtedly be, in the first instance, the ability to keep costs down and prices competitive. So one of the ways that they're keeping costs down is by fomenting competition between African nations, whilst lessening competition between European nations in the form of the common market. Yes? Raw materials and labor costs are the two major items in production costing. So it is quite obvious where the keynotes to success must lead. In other words, a depression of the price of the commodities and a depression on the price of the wages for the labor. yes, for the production of those commodities. So it is quite obvious where the keynote is. The development aid which the associated African members may receive from the European Fund will be outbalanced by a gradual decline in the national revenues from the primary products. That is happening. Yes. Even united African arrangements for the maintenance of a common selling policy for certain raw materials such as cocoa cannot be upheld if one or more of the parties to the arrangements adheres to the European organization. Now, brothers and sisters, this is important for us to know, right? Because to a significant degree, enslavement, colonization, and neocolonization was facilitated and maintained by the dynamic of white power commonality, solidarity, and union juxtaposed to African division. Simple as you take it, the Catholic Church in Europe facilitated a certain level of operational and functional unity among Europeans at that time, even though certain levels of competition remained among them. They were at least consolidated enough to act in each other's interests as regards the enslavement of African people. Simple as you take it, the Berlin Conference, brothers and sisters, in 1884, 1885, was a conference that was designed specifically for the purpose of lessening the level of competition among European powers and consolidating a certain base level of cooperation in order to facilitate the colonization of the African continent. Simple as you take it, the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank was designed to lessen a certain, and the European Economic Market, as a common market, as has been explained here, was designed to consolidate a certain level of operational unity among white power nations, whilst maintaining divisions among African nations, brothers and sisters. They have never, yes, in the oppression of African people, come to us whilst manifesting all-out competitiveness among each other. If they did, they would not have been able to maintain it. Yes, that is why rules and laws are created within these nations. If they existed in an environment of all-out competition, they would not need laws, for example, that relate to things like robbery and theft, because in competing with your fellow corporation, you can just run up in their headquarters and thief everything with them have, and in the name of competition, may the strongest corporation win. But they create laws against such to protect the property of certain corporations and to lessen the possibility of robbery between those who are party to those agreements, while they all collaborate to facilitate the robbery of African nations and African people. That is what Asajja for Kwame Nkrumah is explaining here. All right, let's go forward. Where was I? The prices which will be fixed by the European members will apply to all the overseas members supplying the common market, and the common market states within the African alliance will have to conform to the fixed prices if they are to enjoy the aid for which they joined it. Yeah. Couple years later, he publishes Neocolonialism, the Last Stage of Imperialism. And at that point, the machinations of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank become even more pronounced. So you're going to see more of that analysis in that book. But even that book, put it this way, the extent of their role, goes beyond, like, it grew into the 70s and the 80s in mad kind of ways. But it was very much predicted in that book. African loyalty will be split between the European attachment and the African association, and the obligation to the former, the European attachment, will nullify fidelity to the African interest. Yeah. So the Union of African States, what is referred to as the United States of Africa, was designed to facilitate geopolitical relationships between African people that allow us to protect ourselves against this intention of the European common market at this time, which was heavily subsidized by the new superpower in the arena following Mass European War II, the United States of America. This is the neocolonialism of the European common market, which holds out to the undeveloped African states the threat of discriminatory tariffs for those who do not come in. So if you don't abide by this, we're going to block the exports of your material, your raw materials, yes, and deal with the sellout them and the stool pigeon them and the puppets them who accede to our demands. If we have a unified domestic and foreign policy, they're not able to play that game with us. We come to the table with all of our power, as Auntie Affiong says, and make demands from that position. Yes? Whatever position, whatever level our strength is at that moment in time, we come to the table with that power. It may not be all the power that we want. It may not be all the power that we need, but it might be just the power that we've got at that moment in time. Whatever it is, we come to the table with it, as opposed to being weakened by their seductions and their machinations of neocolonialism. It is a heads I win, tails you lose policy, which aims to create a bitter schism among the independent African states, or else to cajole them all into the fold of the European market in the same old imperialist relationship of the European rider on the African horse. There are some of us now who are stating this openly, yeah. Oh, yes, support this anti-imperialist, anti-colonialism talk. Get involved in the system. That them say, yeah? Yeah. You know, just get involved in the imperialist system. Yeah, that them depend. And they're saying that like it's intelligence. Yeah, because we're disconnected from the problems that our ancestors were trying to solve. Any of the states that enter deprive themselves of the possibility of independent action. What has taken place over the last 60 years, brothers and sisters, where we've seen a dominations of the policies that Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah is elucidating here? Yes? We have been deprived of the possibility of independent action. They will have lost their freedom to trade wherever it is most advantageous, or to secure capital from the most convenient sources. They will, moreover, have surrendered their policy of non-alignment, which is not being aligned to the West as led by America and Britain at this time, and the East as led by Russia. Yes, by attaching themselves to the European Economic Organization, which is linked with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. Now, bear in mind, he's not saying, yes, that African nations should not trade with the West and should not trade with the East. Non-alignment means that our relationship with the West is not going to be dictated to us by the interests of the East, and our relationship with the East is not going to be dictated to us by our interest with the West. Sorry, by the interest of the West. That our relationship with East and West will be dictated by our own interest. That's what non-alignment means. Okay, all right. Even worse, they will be compelled to betray the cause of African freedom by the support obliged to give to the imperialist suppression of the emancipation struggle in Africa. In short, they will have sold out their African birthright for a mess of neo-colonialist pottage. Is that not what's happened, brothers and sisters? You would be hard pushed to find a tyrannical dictator on the African continent who was not, in fact, backed, sustained, yes, installed by Britain, America, France, Belgium, Portugal, etc., etc., etc. All of them, until they get tired of them and them done with them. All of them. Yeah? Nor could there be any idea of solid industrialized advancement for these African states. Isn't that the same where we are right now? Where's the solid industrialized advancement whilst you've been following these policies? Yes. In the interest of their people, for having returned themselves to the imperialist fold, this time of their own free will, and not by territorial reconquest, the same forces which keep them tagging behind the industrialized countries of the West will continue to operate. The African countries will once more be wide open to imperialist exploitation. Political independence will be a sham and will have gained nothing except the aggrandizement of certain opportunist groups within the national societies and the enrichment of the neo-colonialist interest. Economic independence will be farther away than ever, and the conflicts within these African societies will be more severe because the class divisions will crystallize sharply under the more ruthless demands of the neo-colonialist monopoly to feed its greedier and greedier economic and military machines. An African common market devoted uniquely to African interest would more efficaciously promote the true requirements of the African states. Such an African market presupposes a common policy for overseas trade as well as for inter-African trade, and must preserve our right to trade freely anywhere. Once again, I must preserve our right to trade freely anywhere. If it is a good thing for the European buyers to regulate their affairs with their overseas suppliers by combination, then it must be equally good for Africans to do likewise in offering their wares. Besides, an African common market does not concert its policy in regards to its export seriously reduces its effectiveness. So, and besides, an African common market that does not concert its effort in its policy, that does not concert its policy in regards to its export seriously reduces its effectiveness, since the mutuality of interest might well be violated by individual actions in regards to the sale of crops common to several of the members. I've already explained that in the example of cocoa. One of the principal objectives of our African common market must be to eliminate the competition that presently exists between us, and must continue to do so while any of us mistakenly shelters under the umbrella of the European common market. Yeah. So that's why I've gone through all this, because it explains what was said earlier in terms of the necessity of an African common market to combat the European common market. The cash crops that we produce must be pooled so that our combined totals will give us a commanding position, and through a united selling policy enable us to extract better prices. For instance, Ghana and this is something that people do all over the world, you know. Ghana and Nigeria, between them, produce about 50% of the world's cocoa. So far, we have been selling against each other, but in uniting our policy, we can beat the undercutting tactics of the buyers who set us one against the other. The surplus is thus derived from the increased revenues resulting from a common selling policy could be placed to realistic development rejected by the European Development Fund and give a spurt to fundamental industrialism. The trade now beginning to be developed between us would be stimulated. So that means now we're increasing the trade, between African nations. So we're not relying upon our capacity to trade and privileging our capacity to trade with Britain or America or France or Russia or China. We are also making a concerted effort to rely increasingly more on our trade among each other. This is important, okay? Because even today, all of our nations, focus more on being able to trade with big foreign nations than among ourselves and each other. Okay? The trade now beginning to develop between us would be stimulated while a common currency would eliminate the difficulties of exchange, as well as the illegitimate dealings which at present rob us of part of our wealth. The major illegitimate dealings that he's alluding to here is the one that is presently still an issue, which is that of the CFA franc. Okay? And the fact that as a result of those arrangements, those nations that were formerly colonized by France were sending over 60% at one point of their foreign reserves to the French central bank, for example, and having to take out loans to acquire back their foreign reserves, were giving France first right of refusal to their natural resources and all kinds of absurd policies, some of which are still in train today, brothers and sisters. A common currency, free of links with outside currency zones, again the CFA franc, would enable us to reserve the foreign exchange made from our export trade for essential imports. This is now the period in which America was upping its economic power and moving towards making the dollar, the currency of global trade, thereby cementing itself in the economies of every nation on the planet, especially those that were concerned with acquiring oil, which became the number one fuel for powering a nation, at that time. Okay. In the same way, the of our present individual investments in our similar national projects, if used within an integrated plan, will give greater benefit in mutual development. Indeed, the total integration of the African economy on a continental scale is the only way in which the African states can achieve anything like the levels of industrialized countries. The idea of the African Union is not just a sentimental one, emanating from a common experience of colonialism and a desire for young, untried states to come together in the effervescence of their new freedom, though sentiment undoubtedly has its part. The unity of the countries of Africa is an indispensable precondition for the speediness and fullest development, not only of the totality of the continent, but the individual countries linked together in the union. I conclude the reading there, brothers and sisters. I conclude the reading there. Let me go through and check if there's any at Kimbunga medias, for this. There appears to be none. All right, so I'm gonna share the link. I'm gonna share the link. Lord, look at the time. All right, I've got 15 minutes, brothers and sisters. I've got 15 minutes. So if anybody I got come through now, because I've got to take a meeting at the top of the hour. So don't hesitate. Come through now. Nobody seems to want their comment to be read out. I don't have time to actually read through the comments that are not trying to get my attention at the moment. I sometimes do that after the show. But if you do want your comment read out, question read out, please at Kimbunga Media in the comment section. And the link is in the chat. If you want to come through right here now, feel free to come through. So I've been reading that, brothers and sisters. For those who may be just joining us, today we have been through a number of subjects. We've discussed the fight between Joshua and Dubois, and the fact that Dubois did come out to Dennis Brown and Prince Allah. And it's very, very difficult to beat them energies. You know what I'm saying? When you conjure them energy there, you know what I mean? You have to counteract that with some Fela Kuti and some King Sonny are there. You know what I mean? And that's how the thing go, Joshua. So we hope you listen and all of these things. We dealt with Candace Owens and her attempt to rebrand herself as a defender of Black culture as well. We dealt with the heart-wrenching injustice that has been committed in the United States of America in the last 24 hours with the killing, the legal assassination of Marcellus Khalifa Williams, brothers and sisters. I had no idea who this man was up until the last 24 hours, brothers and sisters, and the whole story has just left me. Yeah, this is a sad one, you know. But once again, condolences to his family and ascendancy to his spirit. And we hope that the process of justice does not end here, because it does appear that our brother was in fact innocent. And the system and the state that has chosen to take his life, heads should roll if any justice at all exists. Yes, within that system, brothers and sisters. We also discussed African Stream and the fact that African Stream's TikTok has been removed and the implications of that, given the fact that TikTok is supposed to reside out of the geopolitical spheric influence of America. So quite an interesting development, yeah. And so we will be talking to our brother Ahmed Caballo on the 1st of October. We'll see what he has to say, what he can say at that point. Yeah. During that conversation, he may not be able to go into much detail because they are engaged in their legal process, African Stream, brothers and sisters, but he will be with us to discuss the issue of Sudan. And then I've just been engaging a reading from the book Afrika Must Unite, as written by Osachefo Kwame Nkrumah and published in the year 1963. The point of the reading, well, it was in line, in fact, with the birthday of Osachefo Kwame Nkrumah, which is the 21st of September. And the point of it was the fact that we're living in a world whereby much of what is dominating our news screens, Israel's war in Gaza, Ukraine versus Russia, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Israel versus Lebanon, Wagwan in Yemen, yeah, and all of these things. These issues that are dominating our news media at the moment are all issues that relate to the yes, it's time for questions. So please at Kimbunga Media. Yeah, if you want a question or comment asked, you could have asked your comment or your question anytime throughout the thing. I would have just come to it. But yeah, feel free to ask your question now. Get it in quickly because I'm going to be ending soon. Or you can click the link and come live. Yeah, you can click the link and come live if you would like to. Okay. Yeah. So I was. So all of these discussions. These current events are inextricably connected to the geopolitical reality that was created and in place in the post-mass European war period. And all of these nations that are involved are standing on the shoulders of their elders and ancestors and continuing to try to solve the problems that were manifested and present during that period of time. Yes, they are connected to those historical processes, and even their adjustments, yes, are based and so if they've negated or rejected or moved in a different direction from a movement of their ancestry or their elders, they have done so while still trying to maintain a certain base level of national and international power, strength, coordination, and problem solving based upon certain principles. While the rest of the world is engaged in that, we as African people have been systematically deracinated from the problems that our elders and ancestors were trying to solve, disconnected from the historical trajectory and the path that they had laid for us. And having discarded that historic mission, we are today currently suffering the consequences and being seduced into all manner of other agendas, none of which have served us well. And so Osachefo Kwame Nkrumah, again, as him said, we will undoubtedly make mistakes. We have already made some mistakes, but they are our own. And I would, as I repeat, I want to encourage us to not feel any shame about the mistakes, the missteps of our ancestors, the fact that they were not yet strong enough to withstand the onslaught of neocolonialism that should not lead us to discard them and their mission and what they were fighting for. It should inspire us to take up the challenge, brothers and sisters. Yes. And finish the mission. Papa Justify.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Habari gani ndugu?
Habari gani? Nzuri sana.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I have come a long way from practicing different religions. I was born into a Christian family, and then I converted to Islam when I was like 17 years old. I'm 31 right now. I have a master's in Arabic. I recently left Islam this year, which is one of the reasons I do not want to disclose my identity because of security risk. But the reason I just want to share some of my experiences within the Islamic faith, and some of the reasons why I left Islam. Now, growing up, I came from a very Pan-African background. It's not something that I consciously practiced, but it was my grandma, for example. She was a personal nurse to Idi Amin, so I grew up in a family where we did have a strong sense of being anti-colonial and stuff like that. Now, in Islam, I got so deep into the Islamic faith, performed my pilgrimage in Mecca. I even traveled to the Islamic Maghreb in Morocco and Mauritania. But when I came to Mauritania, somehow what I always knew deep down became vivid before my eyes, and that was the fact that Arab slavery is still very much present in the Arab world, but for some reason, especially in Africa. And some of the most mainstream scholars have a background in enslaving our people. And even I don't know what the policy is for name dropping on this live.
What do you mean by name dropping?
Well, if I mention some mainstream Islamic preachers.
Yeah. Feel free to do that. Yeah. That's
So Abu Tawba. Yes. So Abu Tawba from New York, who's also an African American who studied Islam in Mauritania. He knows very well that there is slavery of our people in Mauritania, and he himself even in like very briefly admitted in one of his videos that he studied under an Arab scholar who owned black slaves. And for him, like Abu Tawba comes, like he practices Islam but with an African veneer. But I just find it astonishing how so many of our people know very well the power dynamics between Arab vis-a-vis black people in Islam, and whether we like it or not, and no matter what Muslims tell you, they like to promote this notion that Islam is about quality and between all races and universal brotherhood. But that could not be further from the truth, because you have clear-cut, authentic hadiths. And I also want to bring to attention that I am actually quite learned in the Islamic sciences. I spent like almost 10 years of my life delving into these topics. Yeah. When you have hadiths saying that Allah gave preference to the children of Ishmael, and from the children of Ishmael he gave preference to the tribe of Banu Hashim, and from the tribe of Banu Hashim he gave preference to the tribe of the Arab tribe Quraysh, and from the Arab tribe Quraysh he gave preference to me, Muhammad, as your prophet. That means, in other words, that some people are more preferred than others in Islam. And also when you look at Islamic jurisprudence, the only people who are by default allowed to rule a caliphate are people of Arab descent, especially from the tribe of Quraysh. That is something that they never tell you. And when you just recently I came across an authentic hadith where a black man went to Muhammad and complained about his blackness, that he was black, that he wasn't very good looking, and that he had an unpleasant odor. I'm saying in parentheses, the Prophet sent him to battle, and when he died as a martyr, the Prophet said, Allah has whitened his face, given him a pleasant odor, and made him handsome in paradise. Now, if Islam was not an anti-black religion, why is the Prophet then talking like that? So so these are part of the frustrations I've had with the Islamic faith, and which is why I have now apostatized from Islam. Right now, I'm on a journey trying to discover my my African spirituality, but I just really do not know where to start. So if there's any reading material or anything you could refer me to, I'd highly appreciate that.
100%, my brother. First of all, let me thank you for your heartfelt reflection and testimony. You know, I have not been through that experience, yeah, but I do empathize with what you have expressed, yeah. And I thank you for the courage that it must take for you to come forward and share and ask the question that you've asked. You are in fact in luck, because actually tomorrow, I'm assuming based upon your testimony that you are residing in the United States of America. So we have tomorrow at 6 p.m. I'm hosting a show with a brother by the name of Black Panther, entitled African Spirituality for Children of the African Diaspora. Yeah. And so it will be full of information and you know, methodologies, ways, books, and so on and so forth that you can look at, you know, to continue your journey into African spirituality. In fact, this title here is the title of a book that the brother who is going to be the guest tomorrow has actually written. Yeah, so I will encourage you to come through that show and take it in. Yeah, I will say though, for you at the moment, there are, as well as that book that I've just mentioned, I would say there's a film series by a group, Brother Dalian Adofo. They're a married couple, Brother Dalian Adofo and Sister Verona Spence Adofo, who have developed a film series called Ancestral Voices, and it is also accompanied by a book, yeah, which is about African spirituality in its collective sense, yeah. And so that is an excellent place to start, yeah. I'm trying to be more general rather than specific, because once you get on the journey, you'll be able to find your own specificity. Yeah. So let me stop there so I don't bombard you with too much. You know, but I would say once again, Ancestral Voices, they have a website, ancestralvoices.co.uk. You can acquire their book, you can acquire their DVDs. And again, Brother Black Panther's book, African Spirituality for Children of the African Diaspora. But also do come through tomorrow, because you will also have the opportunity to interact with our brother and ask your questions as well. Yeah. And I will say that we are for those who know me, know that I'm very passionate about the proliferation, the development, the restoration of dignity, and the institutionalization of African spirituality. So we are going to be facilitating a lot more of those conversations on this platform. Yeah, we are going to be facilitating a lot more of these conversations on this platform, and some of what you identify, I'm familiar with. Some of the some people know me quite well from a place called Speaker's Corner, where we in the UK, where we've had certain debates, and whilst I tend, whilst there's an emphasis for me, and it probably comes from my upbringing, but there's an emphasis for me on the affirmation and the teaching about African spirituality than the deconstruction of, let's say, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Yeah, not to say that that shouldn't be done. I'm just sharing what my main emphasis is, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes.
But I do intend through the platform, however, we have some ideas, and I do intend to facilitate some interreligious conversation whereby those types of issues can be discussed and fleshed out. Yeah. But as it stands, though, the emphasis for the time being is on teaching about African spirituality, partly because, as you've asked the question, if people want to learn about Christianity, there's many places they can go and do that. Exactly. If people want to learn about Islam, there's many places they can go and do that. There's many places you can go learn about Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and so on and so forth. But our indigenous spiritual systems, oftentimes there is still a deficit on places to go to learn about these things. So go ahead.
Can I just also expound on that? There is a huge deficit. But even when I traveled back to my home country a couple of months ago, and I was trying to explore like where to start, I also start to notice that there's also a huge number of like frauds in this field as well, which makes it like extra hard to know like what is an authentic place to learn this stuff from and where it's not.
Absolutely, my brother. That dynamic operates on many different levels. One is the fact that in anything you're going to get frauds. Yeah, that's a reality we have to deal with. But it's particular in the case of indigenous African spiritual systems because of the extent to which they have been devalued, demonized, and degraded. And so oftentimes it requires those who are involved and adherents to an indigenous spiritual system to operate underground or clandestinely. And sometimes that reality creates a certain nefarious element, and people are able to take advantage and exploit and so on and so forth. It's a problem, and it's a problem that we have to solve. It's a problem that we have to deal with. It's a problem that we have to be honest about and read about. You know what I'm saying? But hopefully through sincere inquiries like the one that you have presented today, and those who are sincere teachers, we are able to remedy those situations more and more by raising the profile of those who are truly dealing in honesty and truth with our indigenous spiritual systems.
Right. I appreciate it.
I mean? Yes, my brother. Thank you very, very much, Proper Justify, for coming through. You know what I'm saying? An important one. And it's interesting that you asked that question because, like I said, throughout the month of October, in fact, there's going to be a couple shows dealing with issues of African spirituality. So do stay tuned. If you're not subscribed, do subscribe.
I will, sir.
Thank you very much, my brother.
All right.
Much appreciated. Yeah. All right. That was Papa Justify. Interesting question there. You know what I'm saying? You know, and say, if you know me, say, them Christian there, them subject there is, is we're well versed in them subject there. We're well going on them subject there. Not to say that I am as studied as our brother on Islam, but the denigration of African spiritual systems by Abrahamic religions is an issue that I'm very, very, very much invested in and discussed many, many times on various different platforms. Yeah. And we try to do so with respect, understanding that there are many of our brothers and sisters who adhere to these religions and are devoted to them. Yeah. And within the context of developing Pan-African spaces and dialogue, we have to create spaces whereby we can have these conversations respectfully. And so I always try to have those conversations with respect, but we're asserting the value of African spiritual systems and being unapologetic in identifying the onslaught and the assault that we have been subjected to as African people. Because even if you are not a adherent to an African spiritual system, even if you are adherent to an Abrahamic religion, you may not be aware of the extent to which the attack on an African spiritual system is an attack on you too. Yeah. And so we try to highlight those factors without fear or favor, without apology, but with utmost respect and value for our brothers and sisters in those phases, especially those who try to make a valid contribution to our people's forward development and liberation. So give thanks for that, brothers and sisters. It appears that nobody else is going to click that link, and there's a couple more. There's a couple at Kimbunga Medias in the chat. Yeah, so yeah, give thanks for all those who come through. Let me make sure I'm not missing none of the at Kimbunga Medias. No, I think I have them all. You know what I mean? Some are afraid for at Kimbunga Media, you know, but as them said up and out for frightened. So I said the thing go. We understand your fear still. Kimbunga Media, man, I'm mad as hell. I never got the notif. Oh, I just got home. No worries, bro. You know, if Afrikan stream can get completely deplatformed, we know say, you know, they're gonna play with notifications. So I saw the thing go. Join today just because I want to hear the whole presentation. So I'm going back to the beginning. Peace to all. All right. So we know say Imhotep now got ear right here now. And like Meloman does say, more Pan-Africanism. You don't know that we there pan. Bala says would be good to tie what the brother is sharing into the theme of the show right now. Kimbunga Media. Okay, I get you. I'm not sure if I did that, but I get you. To be explicit about that, somewhere else in the book. In fact, I might, because I was going to read it earlier, so I may as well read it. Now that you've asked, out here just trying to elongate my show. We're missing. So there's a section in the book where searching for Kwame Nkrumah does kind of address a point similar to that. Yeah, so we're gonna and deal with it. But yeah, what you're really touching on is the idea of cultural unity, and how that factors in. Yeah, many people don't want to deal with that, you know, for various different reasons. And I will go as far as to say that there are some brothers and sisters who are in Abrahamic religions who are very uncomfortable with the concept of cultural unity. Yeah, you know, because of the potential implications. Yeah, for the spread, let's say, of their religious inclination, and what they would attempt to convince the rest of us is the way that we need to be looking, you know, religiously and spiritually. But there are others who are not so afflicted. Yeah, and I mean people in Abrahamic religions who are not as uncomfortable. And I find that the ones who attempt to retain at least some or, you know, a significant amount of an African expression within their religious tradition don't have as much of an issue in these dynamics, you know. For some reason, I'm having difficulty finding the passage that would deal with Bala's point. So that may be a sign. That may okay, I found it. All right, so come we go. So just to do what Bala's asking me to do in terms of connecting it, what the brother has said to the subject today. In under the heading, the chapter towards African unity, he says there are those who maintain that Africa cannot unite because we lack three necessary ingredients for unity: a common race, culture, and language. It is true that we have for centuries been divided. The territorial boundaries dividing us were fixed long ago, often quite arbitrarily by the colonial powers. Some of us are Muslims, some are Christians. Many believe in traditional tribal gods. Some of us speak French, some speak English, some Portuguese, not to mention the millions who speak only one of the hundreds of different African languages. We have acquired cultural differences which affect our outlook and condition our political development. All this is inevitable due to our historical background. Yet, in spite of this, I am convinced that the forces making for unity far outweigh those which divide us. In meeting fellow Africans from all parts of the continent, I am constantly impressed by how much we have in common. It is not just our colonial past or the fact that we have aims in common. It is something which goes far deeper. I can best describe it as a sense of oneness in that we are Africans. In practical terms, this deep-rooted unity has shown itself in the development of Pan-Africanism and more recently in the projection of what has been called the African personality in world affairs. Yeah. Now, that's one place that Bala may have been going with this. Another place that he could go with this is in relation to one of my significant disagreements with the Assajafor, which is in the sense of our relationship with Arab states, yeah, or Arabized states on the African continent. My inclinations are far more in line with that of Baba Kwesi Pra and Baba Chinwezu, in the sense of the fact that those who have an issue and are hostile to an African personality, African communal sense of culture, and so on, cannot be considered to be a part of an over or indispensable to a Pan-African agenda. Yeah, so that's another way that we could look at that, and that we have to resolve the issues of Mauritania and Libya, you know, Chad, yeah, you know, Sudan, yeah. Though we have to resolve those issues, yeah, in terms of the manifestations of what we refer to as Arab supremacy, in order to formulate a more sophisticated and sure union among ourselves as African people. All right. So those are the two ways I think we can tie in what the brother was saying with our subject today. All right. So give thanks, one and all. Give thanks. To your listening ears. I want to give thanks to all those who tuned in, listened in, watched in. Give thanks for all those who commented. Give thanks for all the silent viewers. Give thanks to the enemies, yeah, brothers and sisters, friends, and I see some enemies. Give thanks to the enemies, because your presence here gives us the endorsement of the fact that we know so we are doing the right thing. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's like when them attack African stream, we know say African stream I do the right thing. When we see the enemies among us, we know so that we are doing the right thing. So we want to give thanks to the friends, the family, as well as the enemies, brothers and sisters. I need to let you know that you can get your African World newspaper, the War Report edition, special edition, right now in the comment section to this video, absolutely free. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters. If you want to know what's going on in Kenya, if you want to know what's going on in Haiti, if you want to know what's going on in the Alliance of the Sahel, if you want to know about all of the military bases on the African continent, if you want to know about media sources and institutions and books that you can read to up your knowledge and information, you can check out the War Report, absolutely free. Get your copy in the link to the description to the video right now. We also want to inform you of the fact that it is going to be the return of Kushim University. Yes, indeed, brethren and sistren. Kushim University returns with the prolific one and only brother Robin Walker. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters. You don't want to miss that. And tomorrow, we are joined, as I've just been mentioning, by our brother Black Panther, African Spirituality for Children of the African diaspora. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters. Yeah, you know, you're gonna want to come through to that particular conversation there, because yeah, you know, serious conversation that, and there are a few things, you know, that me love to discuss more, yeah, than African spirituality. You know, and I also like to discuss it in an environment where I'm not debating another religion. Yeah, I think that one of the criticisms that I've had of people that deal with African spiritual systems, and I understand why it is done. It's not a condemnation, but I think that, you know, there's definitely a need for us to find spaces whereby we are teaching without, not in the context of debate. And I get it. Even me, when I'm teaching, sometimes, you know, I'm burdened by having to undo this particular propaganda that has been popularized by an Abrahamic religion or whatever. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So those things are necessary, but sometimes we just have to teach. Yeah, with it, not in the spirit of contention. All right, we just have to teach. Yes, fewer things without being concerned with other people things. You know, it. Yeah. What one thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show, yeah, is that the Jikola Kimbunga Brotherhood is coming back with another African Survival Initiative Roundtable this coming Saturday in Medai, the 28th of September, and the subject was the Project 2025. This time round, the subject is the US government versus Black people. The US government versus Black people, brothers and sisters. So we're going to be getting a rundown of the previous policies of the two last administrations in relation to African people in America. So this is domestic policy now, okay? And next month we're going to do foreign policy, but this time around it's domestic policy, yeah? And so we'll also touch on the current policy proposals of the two presidential candidates and their respective parties. Yeah, so we're going to be going into that, and to do come true. The last show was an excellent show, and this show will be no less excellent. That is this Imani Saturday, the 28th of September, brothers and sisters, from the hour of 1 p.m. If you are in the United States of America, Caribbean, Canada, you know, EST sides, yeah, and 6 p.m. if you are in the UK. Okay, so do come true for that particular conversation, brothers and sisters. Yeah, all right. With that, brothers and sisters, we do say unto thee, Tendai Mwali, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe, as known by the many names across the length and breadth of the African diaspora, across the length and breadth of all the languages of African people. Kudzai Mudzimu Mukuru, we give praises unto our great ancestors, because we know that our ancestors are worthy to be praised. Abibi Tomi, Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.
Kushim University is brought to you by our amazing sponsor, The Black Secret. Are you ready to dive deep into Black history, economics, wealth building, and self-empowerment? The Black Secret is offering exclusive courses by none other than the Black history man himself, Robin Walker. This is the most powerful Black studies course on offer for the entire Black world. And guess what? You can get started today by simply using our special link, which you can find in the video description. Be sure to apply our coupon code Kimbunga to get another 20% off your membership. And there's more. Want to get a taste of what the Black Secret has to offer? You can also claim the book 100 Black History Facts absolutely free. Link in the description. So what are you waiting for? Expand your mind, unlock a world of knowledge, claim your free book, and let the Black Secret guide you on a journey of discovery and empowerment.
Click on the link below or subscribe to get more information. Class is in session. Hello, this is Robin Walker. I'm the Black History Man. This is Kushim University, and class is in session. The presentation is called The West African Empire of Ghana. The ruler of Ghana was the richest king on the face of the earth. West Africa is the center of where it's at in terms of economic activity on the earth. West Africa is where it's at.
Black people, we've got to fight. Jean Petro, you see us. Oguo, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, Black people, we've got to fight. Zumbi, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, Black people, we've got to fight. Yes, Santewa, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, Black people, we've got to fight. Bookman, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh,
we have to have the courage to construct our own reality. And that's what Garvey was talking about. Because he said he looked around, he didn't see what he thought should be there, and so what did he do? He didn't get depressed about it. He didn't get defeated about it. He said, I'm gonna build the government that we need to have. Ooh, where do you get that kind of boldness from? So we gotta go all the way back to Garvey, who said he would come again. He said he would be here with us, no matter how long it took. And I'm telling you that the way he comes back is in our work. Not honoring him in words, pomp, and all of that stuff, but honoring him through doing what he did. How many of us have the courage to do that? The man took on the world for us and in our name. And then we come to Sodai. And in this presentation of the paradigm, I'm going to make this like what it is we want to reach. So Sodai is translated clear word in Dogana language. And I use it to mean that here we gain understanding. This is sight with understanding. And it is seeing beyond what just we think we see with this physical thing. It's seeing beyond that. And so we gain vision, because that's what vision is. With vision, you've got to be able to use the imagination informed by the African spirit. And Brother Amos, who I work very closely with, was a good friend of mine. He taught me, and he would talk about imagination. Image a nation. Do you see? But that's got to be part of vision. To be a visionary, you got to see beyond this box here. You got to see beyond the ma'afa. You got to see what is it that our people rightfully should have, and that's what Garvey did. Garvey had a vision.